All right. It is Friday. And it is Fire Drill Friday.
Yeah, it's not Fired Up Friday.
No, we are Wayne free yet again.
Do we
Yes.
know where he is? Where's Wayne?
I want to say that 3 of the 5 kids, maybe 4, today was their last day of school.
Yikes.
Oh, that's an important day.
But that's an important
Yeah,
day.
and I was like, okay, I totally, in theory, I understand that. It's like, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I went to school and every year had a
Right.
last day of school.
Sure.
But I don't, not to shit on my upbringing or whatever, but I don't remember anybody ever, it was like, okay, you go.
It
get
was
up.
different then.
Yeah.
I mean, my parents were great, but I don't think that they did anything the last day of
Oh
school
no, my
either.
mom would sit there like I had a special hairdo, like
Really?
oh yeah, like it
I
was,
take that back. Maybe they weren't so great.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was a latchkey kid, so I just
Same.
can't, yeah. So,
Yeah,
Same.
no.
so I just got off the bus.
Yeah.
And
I
like
mean, I
probably
walked.
went home and made like chicken tendies or something.
Yeah, for sure. Chicken tendies and macaroni and cheese, the blue box.
That's great.
All the time. Yeah.
Only the blue box.
Oh,
Yes.
Still.
Yeah, yeah.
So today is.
Well, now I'm
Fi-
traumatized.
It's
Yeah.
Fire
Okay.
Drill Friday.
Yes.
Yes.
And I get to read. We're gonna start
Yes.
off with the word today
Yeah.
because your phone is
Yes, my
somewhere
phone.
else.
Yes, we are.
We're
are.
TikToking and being catfished, I guess.
Yes, we're
So,
giving all of our information
excited.
to the Chinese government at the moment.
Excellent.
Yes.
I like
Bite
it.
dance.
Yeah. So May 31st. Can you believe that? June 1st
Yes.
tomorrow.
Crazy.
Word of the day is action.
Ooh.
The path
good.
to success is to take massive, determined action from our friend Tony Robbins.
Oh, yes.
Convert
oh,
a
yes.
plan or idea into a concrete action this week. So we're going to have fun with that one, folks.
I love it.
Ooh. Convert a plan into a concrete action this week. Oh, I like that. I like that. That's good stuff.
I'm not necessarily a planner, which I know goes like totally against the whole idea. of-
Shock face.
What?
Although I do subscribe to the idea that even taking the wrong action is better than
It's progress.
Yeah,
It's
is
progress,
better
absolutely.
than just being because we've talked many times about imposter syndrome and all
Yep.
the things like that that would lead you to just take no action whatsoever. It's safer doing nothing, versus failing or even worse,
We
failing
have
in
this
public.
fear of failure. Tremendous fear of failure.
Well, somebody, and it, not that I hadn't heard rumblings of this before, but it just like connected a different way. And we were talking about somebody being in real estate I said, but man, they've been doing it for 10 years. Oh, it was Mark Koretsky. He said, but they've had year 1 10 times. And I was like, dude, that's exactly right, because they hadn't made massive progress year over year. It was just, they have 10 years in the business, but they are replaying like Groundhog's Day.
Yes.
That same first year over and over again. And that's kind of stuck with me because it's so simplistic. It's even talking about health goals and all of these other things. I'm sitting here going, man, I had a really good program 6 months back that I was going to do. And man, I would have made so much more, but I always try to do massive action all at
yes.
once. If I had just taken these smaller steps over this 180 days, where would I be today with my summer body? Versus, in December, I'm like, this is going to be the best summer ever. And now here I am going, I'm going to have the best Christmas ever. We're going to have so much fun. I'm going to buy new clothes and all of these other things. But it's daily action, I think, is the
Yes.
thing that we really have to focus on.
Yeah,
It's just
the
daily
the
action.
Japanese concept of kaizen, small,
Oh.
consistent action.
Yep.
So it's like one of those things where if you do 1 push-up,
Yeah.
nobody's ever going to know. But if you do 100 push-ups, you'll feel it. But if you do 100 push-ups 100 days in a row,
Yep.
all of that starts to add up.
Absolutely.
And I'm always fascinated by what either motivates people or keeps them from actually pulling the trigger on stuff.
Keeps them stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's, so compounding interest, anything you can sit there and say, it's like, okay, I'm going to save $50,000. Well, that seems insurmountable. But have you seen those little boxes that they're advertising right now on TikTok? And it's these boxes that have different dollar amounts.
Yes. I actually saw you cross it off. And I
Yeah.
think by the time you're done,
It's like $10,000 or something like that.
Oh, this is fun.
So this would be, if you.
What a good gimmick, Rick.
Yes. I am a huge fan of a good gimmick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good gimmicks never go out of style, by the way.
But it's so neat because it's like it's got $1 on there, it's got $10, it's got a $100 bill, it's got a $5 bill, and every day you put the money in the slot and you
Cross off
cross
one
it
of the-
off.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to get on TikTok.
I think so. I think we should all have one.
Yeah.
Let's see what works.
I will
6
bear
months
no,
from now.
I will bear no responsibility for like your screen time getting shot through to the stratosphere.
Yeah.
But I do remember things like that when I was a kid, where they would try to not necessarily make you fiscally responsible, because that's never been the American way. We're not teaching
No.
people how to work with
No.
their money, but having a thing where like you put a coin in the slot,
Yeah.
like a card,
Yeah.
or like
Little books,
a little book.
binders.
Yes,
yeah,
I
a little
remember the
binder.
books, yeah.
And because remember back when we had change, like you're
Yes,
saying.
yes, yes.
still like
the
change.
little machine, and you would put it in and it would count it for you. Those were so fun for the kids. Remember
Yeah.
those?
Or
Or they,
quarters.
Yeah.
I want to say one of my friends had the mechanized gimmick where it was total gimmick, but it was like either Batman or somebody like came out and like grabbed the quarter and like took it and put it in the thing.
fun.
Yeah,
How
or it might have been-
expensive was that?
Oh yeah, probably in 1976 it was probably like $40.
Yeah.
Which is like a car payment
Yeah.
now. But having watched my grandfather, he had a thing for dimes where it was like every 10x or whatever, so like he'd have these old jars
Yeah.
that were just loaded to the gills with dimes, and I can remember doing that like cash out thing and going like,
Yeah.
holy shit, that's
It's a lot of money. It adds up.
yeah, but especially since they were like the smallest.
See,
Physical.
my dad would always have Tums bottles and my Lanta bottles. Obviously, he had a lot of ingestion, but that's what he would give me, full of change. I'm like, what? Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, it's like you gave
Not a
him
joke.
indigestion. Yeah, you gave him indigestion, and he gave you money.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow. Okay, so action. There has
Action.
been a lot of action in the world of real estate this
Yes,
week.
yes, there has.
Tell us, I've had several people ask me about the Northwest MLS.
Okay.
What can you tell me
Okay, so here's what I can tell you. So for our listeners,
that won't get us put in jail?
Yeah, absolutely. That's always the caveat. I'm too pretty for jail at this
You
point.
really are.
Same.
Yeah, right? This is not going to
Absolutely.
go well. So the biggest thing is talking about we're nearing the opt-in date for the settlement, the nationwide settlement for the class action lawsuit, the Sitzer Burnett.
What does that
case.
mean? I don't think a lot of people understand that there's an opt-in option.
Yeah, no, and so that's the biggest thing. So NAR, through all of their trials and tribulations over the past several years. I mean, I think this initial case was filed roughly about 6 years ago, and that was just that we were colluding and that there was an antitrust violation and how we were charging and colluding with compensation and creating a standardized sense of compensation throughout the real estate marketplace. And so we've been going through this for several years now. And in October, unfortunately, we were found guilty, I guess is the terminology.
Guilty.
It was so fun. It was in October, and you're like, oh,
Us
that's
and
so deflating. Huh. But then it went immediately into action. What
Yes.
does that mean? That we lost the case, and how do we still take action to get ourselves out of this so we can still go out there and act on behalf of our clients, advocate for them. And so quickly, NAR behind the scenes was trying to carve out an ability to settle because the judgment with treble damages was somewhere in upwards of $5 billion.
It was insane.
It was insane. And so part of that, though, was that there are all these copycat lawsuits. And so somebody could sit there and say, we don't need NAR, take down NAR, all of these other things, which is a very reactionary statement. But ultimately, these copycat lawsuits that were happening all over the country were also naming individual brokerages, teams, practitioners. And that's when NAR was saying, we have to stop. We have to stop the forward progress of everybody being brought into these copycat lawsuits.
Yeah, it can't be everybody that ever bought a house now
Right.
has, now is going to take their agent to court.
Correct. And so that's where they went in to act, and it was, how do we carve out a settlement so we can protect the largest amount of our realtor members and practitioners in the country? And so we did finalize the settlement with the plaintiffs. We just got preliminary approval with Judge Boo, which obviously
That's
is
fun.
very ironic that is his name in Missouri.
fun.
So he has given his initial nod that they are going to approve the settlement. But part of that is each individual MLS and realtor association has to opt in, and the brokerages. So that's kind of where we are right now, is we have to say, yes, include me in that
So
overarching settlement.
what's the vibe on that? What's the
There's a lot of people that are disgruntled and said we should have still kept fighting because we don't feel like we've done anything wrong. But there's a saying, especially in marriage, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And
done.
Which that was
Just
always
done.
problematic for me because coincidentally, being right makes me happy.
Yeah.
So
yes, but you know what,
here
Rick?
you are.
Are you married here now? I mean,
He's not.
Where are we at? So
we are 0 for 2.
Yeah. So
So I think we did the right thing.
Yes.
well, and so on an overarching scale, you would sit there and go, yeah, let's keep fighting. But for an individual practitioner that wasn't even following this, that's sitting there and going, hey, no, I want to be protected. I want to make sure that how I'm transacting my business legally is going to be protected. And that is what this settlement was doing, is that by being an NAR member, when the settlement is finalized, there's actually a time period, and I don't have all those timelines in front of me, but as long as you are an NAR member, a realtor member, as of a certain date, then you are covered. And that's huge because at least in
Especially
Texas,
for the small practitioner.
the small practitioner in Texas, we had more people named in the 2 copycat lawsuits than anywhere else in the country. Remember, go big or go home in Texas.
Yes.
You know,
No, I remember it just kept coming in. We would get the notifications from
Yep.
the different MLSs. I'm a part of several MLSs. So I just kept getting the emails, and it was like, okay, I'm going to see my name on here at some point.
And,
so it
and
was scary.
It was really scary. And so now, fast forward, here we are. People are starting to opt in because I believe the opt-in finalized date is June 17th. And yes, I have 14 different notifications in my phone to remind Justin Landon, who was on last week, okay, we're opting in, we're opting in, we're opting in, and we're not going to miss that date. It's so important. And so now, fast forward to Northwest MLS, which is in our Northwest region. I think it's part of Washington and Oregon, has come out and said we are not opting in.
Oh.
And so you're seeing all of these salacious headlines. Northwest MLS is taking on the big bad monster, and
Good
and
luck
they're
with
not,
that.
you know. But here's what it basically is then you have to read beyond the headlines.
not as cut and dry as
Yeah,
that, yeah.
And to understand that Northwest MLS is actually broker owned, where the majority of the MLSs are owned by associations. So
Yeah, so technically, Metrotex is a nonprofit, right?
Metrotex is a not-for-profit, but our MLS. So we are the primary shareholder of Netris, which
Yeah.
is our North
Is
Texas
the
MLS.
clearinghouse for
Yeah.
the data.
Correct. And so the local associations are the shareholders of our MLS, and that's really what it is like most of the other areas of the country. And so Northwest MLS is broker owned, and those brokers got together and said, you know what? We don't need to opt in. They've never been named, and part of that is they did what's called decoupling. When initially the suit was filed.
Isn't that kind of like what Gwyneth Paltrow did?
Yeah, that's the yes, exactly. We're
I
just
get
gonna
it now.
we're just gonna decouple. Like this
Yeah.
isn't a bad thing. We're gonna decouple, which basically that was the crux of the lawsuit as well, is they do not want the listing broker offering cooperative compensation to
that
a
makes
buyer
sense.
broker, right? Yeah. Northwest MLS said, we're going to go and we're going to start making those changes because we kind of maybe see the writing on the wall.
Yeah, and to be fair, like the optics of that are better than like we're gonna fight. We didn't do anything wrong, because that looks sus.
No, it looks us, but here's the funny. It's not
And the
fun-
money that you spend.
Well, but it's not funny because it's like, well, you've already decoupled, which is what the DOJ wanted to see.
Yes.
And you've already decoupled, and that's what the crux of the lawsuit was. So I'm not saying that they still can't be brought into some sort of lawsuit, but in their minds, it's like, hey, we don't need to necessarily opt in because we've already done some of the things that they've asked. And the big portion of that is that they do feel it will be harmful to the consumer by not having transparency in what the compensation is being offered to a buyer's agent.
Yeah, and like for me, I actually see this like chaotic stuff as opportunity. Because I mean, not gonna lie, there was some of the stuff when I figured out how the association / Netris. Because I mean, like, okay, the easy example would be HAR in Houston, where it's like, okay, it's all one thing. There aren't these little fiefdoms all over North Texas that, oh no, it's Louisville. No, it's
Right.
It's Fort
Yeah.
Worth. It's boom.
Yep.
And it's also the MLS. Where the association is the MLS. That made more sense.
Yep.
Versus the crazy sort of outdated, in my opinion, outdated method of, oh no, we're over here. and we sort of play nice with these guys over here, but not really. And we'd rather not if we didn't have to, but we have to, because that's where it starts to look really sus, where it's like, well, wait a minute. Why are there, wait a minute. Oh, no, your MLS is over here, but wait a minute. You're 5 minutes away from where I'm at right now, but that becomes tedious.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what it was. And that was the whole thing was sharing of information and being cooperative with your neighbor. And that's, the MLS is there and it's still just a tool. But it was there to share, true and consistent information across, the marketplace. And it is still there to be that tool. But that's where the Northwest MLS is coming in. And of course, it's, heating up conjecture and everything else that we should have fought. We should have done this, let's go against the man. And ultimately, to an extent, there is still fighting in the background. The DOJ has come out with their opinion, but they said that's a great first step with the settlement. We want more. We would rather see no offer of compensation be able to be made anywhere, meaning not on a flyer, not verbally, not on a sign, not anything. They just don't want us to be able to make any offer of compensation. Because right now the settlement is you cannot make an offer of compensation on the multiple listing service or any IDX feed.
Whereas what Northwest MLS has done is they've left that offer of compensation.
But it's offered by the seller.
It's coming directly from the seller.
Correct.
Okay. Got it. That makes sense. And which really is what it always has been.
It has, but not to get in the weeds on all of it. That's why it's like we're in it every single day. I'm the president of the 5th largest local association in the country, and I'm still, when we were texting this morning, I was like, getting on the bat phone so I can get more concrete details.
Yes.
And because it's so confusing. So if it's confusing for people that are in the marketplace on a daily basis, what is it doing to our consumers and to the public? And ultimately, the more we can disseminate true and proper information, which is take action, do it legally, do it with a heart of advocacy and support to your clients, you're going to be okay.
Absolutely.
So that, I think, is the biggest thing that we can take away now, is that we still have a fiduciary to our clients, and we have to explain what different things mean. But ultimately, to the individual agent that is pounding the pavement right now, all this means is keep on going out there and
don't stop.
Do what you do.
Stop. Yeah.
If you've always done your job as a realtor with an honest heart, none of this matters.
It doesn't, and it's really interesting. We had TREC, which is the Real Estate Commission, so it's our regulatory arm for licensees.
Austin.
It's in Austin, yes. But they did a road show, and they came to Dallas, and then it's really interesting though to hear, because you want to know how many complaints are you getting? What do those look like? How tenured are the agents that are getting the complaints against them? And they said on average, it's an agent that has been in the business for like 7+ years that is actually getting the complaints.
Interesting.
Not the brand new baby agent as much. And so you go, why is that?
Yeah.
Is it complacency? Is it they're getting a little, comfortable with certain practices, and they keep pushing that line a little more and a little more.
Just filling in the blank.
And all of those things. And
Now, did they give a breakdown? Is it more list side or buy side? Were the complaints?
It wasn't as much as a breakdown on that most of the time. I mean, non-disclosure is still one of the biggest issues. Just people not disclosing issues on their home.
We're gonna sneak that house lean into the left under the
Yeah, it's no big deal. Don't
No
worry
one will
about
notice.
it. Nobody will notice. Just cover your eyes when you're walking through. It's like,
there's nothing to see here.
There's nothing to see. But it's that. But you know what? It's funny is that they even said, and we've talked about this so many times, communication could actually thwart like 95%.
And everything.
That's like across the board.
In the entire
Yeah.
free world.
Yes, exactly. Humanity.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, to the point where we actually had to enact a rule recently in the last several months where you have to respond to a principal has to respond to another principal, and not even in a transaction. Just if I reach out over here and say, hey, Michelle, I want information on your listing, and she
love
doesn't
this so
respond
much.
to me in 2 days, I can file a complaint against her.
Nice.
You have to return your phone calls.
I mean,
Wow.
that we just mandated. Yes, we
It
just
is a rule.
mandated.
It is a new rule.
Well,
Yes.
I'm always shocked whenever an agent calls, and like half the time I'm in the car and I don't recognize the number, and then I listen to like 7 seconds of the voicemail. I'm like, boop, and I just call right back.
Yeah.
And the number of agents that are like, oh my God, thank you for returning my call. I'm like, what?
Why is the bar so low?
Yeah. It's like, wow, I halfway won already just by
Just.
returning. And I
Yeah.
guess maybe I got extra points because they just called. It isn't me like 5 days later,
Yeah.
you know? And somehow now I will freely admit, like, oh, just text me anytime.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So then that way I can kind of respond, you know.
But that's
Sure.
still a response.
Yes.
It's still a response.
Yeah.
So if she calls me, I can respond via text, and that's a response.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So
If
that
she
counts,
were,
yes.
yeah, it doesn't have to be the same form of communication. I mean, if you use a Dixie cup with a string, I don't have to reciprocate on the other end.
No.
I don't
you
ever
know?
remember that working, by the way.
Hey, I don't think it did, but you looked really cool.
Yeah.
When you were
Well,
sitting
it felt
there
like
with the
you're
Dixie
doing
cup.
science.
Yeah, you were doing science.
Science.
But you know what's funny? So we're talking about these really big things that are happening across the nation, and you sit there and you go, all these people that are commenting in these forums, but yet we had to enact a rule to actually follow a phone or return a phone call. So do these people even know what's really going on, or is it just a feeling of needing to belong and just to complain
Participate.
and
Oh,
bitch,
absolutely.
For sure.
So I'm like, if you can't answer your phone, I don't think you have the right to sit there and comment on an article you didn't even read the body of.
But I will.
Yeah, exactly.
You just read the title.
He just read the title. That's why I love Joe Rogan. He's like, do not stay in the comments. Like, he tells all his guests that all the time. They're like, how do you have such a healthy mindset and disposition to what you do? And he's like, I don't read the comments. I come in, I come out. I make a post, I'm gone.
Now,
You know?
I will freely admit that I do enjoy a good flame war every now and then.
Sure.
And I'm a lifelong nerd, so I will jump into like some genre nerd stuff and just
Oh, I consume
up.
it. I consume it because I need to know how to enact mental warfare against my cohorts, and not my good ones. But I'm like, I need to know where your tactics are. If
Little
we're going
Sun-
to war
yeah,
together.
Little Sun Tzu here.
Yes,
Yeah.
I need to know. But it's like, if you're the topic of the discussion, don't get in the comments. Like, don't read what your haters are saying about you.
no.
So I think that's the difficult part is we can, we're talking about these things, and it's really important to know what opt in and opt out and the lawsuits and everything else. But at a bare minimum, just take better action and be better than the person next to you, and you are
Yeah.
going to win out.
Well,
in
and
this
it's
business.
like I tell my guys that it's like I'd prefer to be the one that gives 51% in every exchange. So like if you have a history of doing that, even if you hate the other person or they're just totally full of shit and this is a total scam or whatever, and you're never going to get that time or money back.
Yeah.
It's like, well, who cares? And then in the macro, you're winning because karmically speaking, if you do that 51%, you're never going to be looked at as the rip-off artist or the short shifter or like any of that stuff. And now that was difficult to actually get to that place and be okay with it.
For sure. Yeah. It takes
Because
time.
like what Ashley was saying, the people in the comments, I just want to kick stuff and I just want to like yell and whatever because of something else that's coming out sideways.
Yeah.
The same thing kind of like bringing it back to taking action. Once I realized that 99% of the people so for example, like I always say this, like my Instagram feed is mostly hustle porn. It's just like go, like just whatever, like David Goggins.
Grit.
Yeah,
Let's go.
David Goggins doing push-ups or pull-ups, and like 10 below or whatever. And it's like
The cold plunge. Oh,
but like see now to me the cold plunge is a little bit of superficiality, where that's theatrics.
Yes.
Now I don't deny that it probably sucks to be in like 38 degree weather or water for 2 minutes.
we should do the next Fire Drill Friday in cold plunge little.
I've
things.
gotten
Yes.
ankle deep, and that's as far as I can
Okay.
go.
and like
so
right
that's
now,
my disclaimer
I'm
right
probably
now.
ordering that on TikTok. Even
Yeah,
as we
we probably
speak.
have one coming.
Yes.
So that's perfect.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it'll probably show up any minute now.
I'm excited.
Yes, but like the whole thing of taking action, where and like there's this weird balance of in recovery. I would tell my guys in that realm sometimes taking no action is the right, basically let the game come to you.
Yeah.
And then in something like this, where in business it's okay, well, the worst thing they'll say is no, or the worst thing that it'll do is like that particular interaction will go south and you will either lose money, whatever. But if one deal is going to put you out of business, you're in the wrong business anyhow.
You're already out of business. Oh gosh. Honestly. I mean,
Right.
I mean, and I think there's so many things, and if we're talking, and obviously you're, in the coaching space and everything else, and I think it's so hard so many times to get people on the other end to understand that you want to go from 0 to 60, and you haven't even put your foot on the gas yet. And just take a minute to breathe. And that's why I always tell new agents or people that are trying to build their business back up, like, you're going to have to do this over time to set a proper foundation and make a recession-proof business model. And it's not Facebook ads, it's not lead gen, because we're looking at this now with the lawsuit and everybody's freaking out and they're going, because the big portals online are for the lead gen side is giving you buyer leads. Well, if the way
Whoops.
that buyer representation is changing, that is more of a warm type of business now, not a
Right.
cold, sterile lead gen business in its entirety. Because now you have to have a buyer representation agreement to even tour homes.
Absolutely.
So that completely changes the space on that. And so you sit there and now everybody's going, well, I used to do leads with this portal or this portal or in this portal. And it's like, guys, because you were trying to figure out your gimmick to go from 0 to 60,
Right.
And do that instead of building, a foundational
One step at a time.
one step at a time,
Yes.
small action on a daily basis. And I can tell you right now, the market is weird. We all know that there are challenges in the marketplace with insurance and interest rates and housing affordability and all of these things. I can tell you this week alone, my phone has rang 4 different times for 4 different clients, 4 different product types. I've got a situation where I'm dealing with a divorced couple, which was a referral from another, and both want to buy something smaller. Fantastic. I've got somebody else that wants to sell their house, buy something else. It was a referral from a daughter, and that's not a bad situation, but it was completely different than somebody else just referred me a new construction. And then I've got 2 investors that I'm working with. I just closed a deal with 2 investors in Israel this morning. But all of that is because the foundational pieces I put together,
Yes.
but all of those
Over
things
time.
are different areas, different products, different things. But you know what they all bank on is my concierge service of relationship building and my
Absolutely.
advocacy and knowing my marketplace. So that's where I sit there and I
you-
build a recession-proof business.
And you did that daily steps,
Oh yeah.
a little bit at a time.
Yep.
Gosh.
There was no 0 to 100.
No.
It doesn't work that way. I have an agent now. She's amazing and a go-getter, and I'm so excited for her. But she came to me wanting to be trained, and she closed 0 transactions. She's been a realtor for a couple years and has
Yeah.
not closed any transactions. She's not had great training, but now she wants to make $100,000 over the next 6 months. Let's make 10,000.
Yeah.
Let's make $1.
Let's sell one house.
Yeah,
and
let's
go
make a
from
couple
there.
bucks.
That's hard. And some people will say, no, you got to manifest bigger and do all these other things. Well, yeah, I want to make $1 million in GCI this year. Am I and do I have that in the back of my mind? Sure. Am I going to do it this year? I am not. But you know what? That drives me, and I'm still good with my end result. But we have to, especially for somebody that's made goose egg.
Yeah.
Right. There's a practicality that seems to get brushed to the side.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I want, and then the, like you and Wayne would always say, like, why is it that you want that?
Exactly.
What is it? It's like,
What's important about
yes,
that?
it's like, yes, of course. It's like, okay, are you currently like $98,000 in debt and they're about to come break your legs? Then okay, then you have a valid reason to want that
Right.
specific number.
Yeah.
However, if it's just that's some arbitrary thing that in your mind dot equals success,
Right.
well, how about we reverse engineer why it is that you think that and maybe get something a little bit more reasonable? Because
Put
the
a
other,
plan together to get there.
yes,
It's
and like
realistic.
as a coach, what do you do whenever it's like you're looking at that and it's like, okay, you have set yourself up for failure and
Absolutely.
disappointment because you have set this goal for whatever reason that is mysterious at the moment. You have set this goal that is, even for the most badass practitioner, probably isn't going to happen. Could, and they'd have a greater shot at it than you coming out of left field, you
Yeah.
know, like from literally the goose egg.
0.
Yeah, it's like, wow, okay.
But you know what? Here's the deal. I got
Yes.
to be Michelle out of it. And I'm like, this was so worth it.
I ask myself to say, why am I doing my,
That was fun.
that was, yeah. One, it's
Maybe
like,
not for you, but
Oh, no, I love it because, again, even if they're in that little equation, like how all of this happened.
Yeah.
And then this is the most fun I have during the week. What does that say about the rest of
I know we got to talk about your week. That's off camera.
We'll coach you through it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we
Yeah.
go. I need, yeah. But the fact that so many dots connected to get here.
Yep.
And then, I was so into Metrotex and the whole
Yeah.
thing and all of that and leadership and everything, and then to have that come full circle after having sort of decoupled. Like,
Yes.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
right? That's our new term is
Yes.
decoupling.
But like there, now I'm gonna have to go Google whatever the hell Gwyneth Paltrow did.
I mean, she is an icon.
She
so
is, yeah, it
who
wasn't.
knew it
We're not
filtered to
breaking up.
MLS?
We're not separating. We're just decoupling.
Yeah.
It's like supposed to be a nice
Oh,
term.
We're
that's-
still friends.
Yeah.
okay, so like that's like a Hollywood breakup.
Yes.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Got it.
She was married to the guy from Coldplay, and they
Oh, that's-
decoupled.
Well,
They
then,
just-
But they're still buds.
then she listened to Coldplay and she's like, I am out.
So, but going back to what Michelle's saying, so what is the takeaway? What is the takeaway to get your? I mean, what do you do to recalibrate that mindset for that agent that went from, hey, I've done 0, I now want to go to X, and how do you help them fill in the gaps in between?
First, it's setting goals with them, determining besides just the numerical amount, what are the goals? What's the direction you're wanting to go? And now let's look at some action steps to get there.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, that's one of those deals where you have to have a realistic conversation and you have to determine, is this person ready to be coached? In this case, they were. That number was just the number that they had in their mind, and they had it for a couple of years. And it's like you said, they were just fixated on it, and it had really lost its purpose. It was just about that's what it's going to look like for me to hit a goal and be successful. So we've stepped back and we said, okay, let's start with having a database, and let's take some steps to get us towards what could be a possible goal in a year or two. But if we're not doing anything and we're just all over the place, we're not going to hit that goal for sure.
You know what's really interesting about that too is the fact that we make these arbitrary goals and we think that's what our future self is going to be happy if we hit that goal,
Yes.
and that is success. And how many times have you set a goal, you achieve the goal, and you're like, well, that's a crappy goal. Like, I don't feel...
Or it's like, wow, that didn't give me the hit that I was expecting.
It did not. And I think that's the whole thing, is that as you sit there and get better and better and better, and your ability to move that goalpost changes, that arbitrary number is going to shift automatically. So that agent, I remember having a conversation with an independent broker like 15 years ago. And I remember sitting there saying, and I'm like, oh, I don't need to make a ton of money. Like, if I made $100,000 a year, I'd be happy. You know, I'd love to manage, your brokerage and do that. I'm newly married. We're going to have kids. And I look back at that. I'm like, oh, that was so funny.
That's
like,
cute.
That was not going to satisfy me. And that's not, but at that time, the vision of my life was, this is what I want. But the goalpost kept on moving, and that keeps me hungry. And being hungry is what will continue the action.
Bingo. Oh, look at that. You
Yes.
dovetailed right back. And I love that. And I was just going to say that exact same thing. It's the falling in love with the process.
Yes.
Yes.
And easier said than done.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, you got to learn to be comfortable, being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And like once that you
That's
can
how
do,
I feel when I put my clothes on in the morning. I'm like,
goes
I'm just
back
gonna
to
I'm gonna have to embody that I'm comfortable with how I look, even though I'm really uncomfortable in these pants right now.
It's the Christmas body again.
Christmas
yeah.
body.
You're going to be like, okay, this year we're doing Christmas in bathing suits.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the idea of falling in love with the process.
Yep.
Then
Thanks, Jason Garrett.
yes.
Yes.
And then also being attached to the effort, not the outcome.
Yep.
Is another key element of being able to then take the action without, because it's like historically, I wanted to take an action and see a result.
Yep.
Yes.
And when that doesn't happen, it's like, this sucks. This is
Yes.
bullshit. I don't want to do this. And that's not how it works.
Well, I think it's so funny because before you would sit there, at least for me, a champion of closing, let's go out to eat, let's go do this, let's go buy something. I literally closed like the biggest deal of my life not too long ago, about a year ago or whatever. And it was multi-millions of dollars. And I was like, closing happened and I went on a listing appointment and I never even celebrated the close. And it's not because that wasn't absolutely amazing, but I was already giving myself the pat on the back because all the effort I did to get that to the table, that was my win.
That was
Not-
the win.
Not the actual
yeah.
closing, not
Yes.
the check. That was not the win.
No, it was the things that you accomplished to get to the closing
And I
table.
said to myself, oh, okay, let's go out and do more.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And I would just close on that with when you're in that situation for the first time, try to act like you've been here before.
Yeah.
And then you end up, not only does it happen repeatedly and consistently, then it no longer is well, if this happens, then I'll be happy or everything will be okay. Because that never actually happens. It's like when you can realize like, I can be okay in the moment or I can be happy right now.
Yeah.
That's the important thing.
Sure.
And to look for something external to actually make that true, you're looking for the wrong thing in the wrong
You'll
direction.
never be satisfied or fulfilled.
Right. And I'd rather not be satisfied in the process.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, this was good, but I think there's more. You know what I mean? And I think that there's using that sort of as a jumping off point or like a leapfrog where it's like, okay, let's go from here to here. Because it's like last month we had the best month ever, and it's like, okay, that was cool. But what can we do this month? You know what I mean? Versus
Now I've achieved the pinnacle and it is no longer the pinnacle.
Yes. Right.
So I've got to create a new pinnacle. And that's that paradigm shift.
Well, and there's a mindset shift in that as well,
Yeah.
because are you doing it for a healthy reason, or are you trying to prove it externally to somebody else that you can do it?
Well-
So there's the difference between the
Well,
two.
both fuel me.
yeah, I was gonna say, historically, I have a history of doing the wrong thing or the right thing for the wrong reason.
Okay.
That's
which-
okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
No one has to know.
Yeah,
So
but I'm better now.
I better, not great,
Yeah.
but we're better.
Better.
But I'd like to leave today with maybe a little bit of action, because I think sometimes people kind of view us and take us in these little snippets and go, "Oh yeah, it's really easy," and she's melting off. She has business
She's
and
already the
everything else.
president.
Yeah,
Yeah.
here's my deal. I was sucking on a tailpipe not too long ago, and I just had to make a promise to myself that I'm not going to go backwards. And I made that promise that I'm not going backwards. I made my goals where I wanted my business for my family to be 5 years from now. I've exceeded those goals. Those goals are so infantile now. But for me, it was that visualization of I'm not going back and I'm not going to allow this to happen.
That's good.
And so for the biggest takeaway, and it's, look, I have a wacky personality. I am so high D, it's over the charts. I was the most, D driven person in my leadership class. I know that hasn't changed. Shocker.
Is that red?
Yes, that's red. And half of it's I, so I've got that influence side too. But for me and my personality type, that meant I need to be in rooms with people that are bigger than me and better than me, and it'll rub off. And so I just said, you know what? I'm going to be in more rooms than I am today. And then I'll be in more rooms next week and a year from now. And those rooms have continued to shift. And sometimes I outgrow those rooms that were helping me grow. I don't know how many times I've sat there and said, I guess I've outlived or outgrown this relationship, and that's okay too.
That's okay.
So for me,
That's the goal.
That's
That
my
is the goal.
mechanism when I realize, oh, I haven't talked to this person in a month, and it's not because I didn't have a fondness for what it was personally or professionally. It's just, wow, I've outgrown that, and that's okay too. So for my personality type, that is how I continue to grow, specifically professionally, is once I see a room that I am now probably the most successful or passionate person in that room, it's time to leave the room.
Yes,
That's good.
And
That's
I'm a
good.
huge fan of surrounding yourself with folks that are at your level,
Yeah.
that are above your level,
And
and
below.
that are. It's basically like where you are, where you want to be, and where you were,
Yeah.
and sort of like kind of continuing. It's the circle of life.
It is the
One's a
circle of life.
windshield, one's a rearview mirror,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Okay, so to wrap up, action.
Yeah.
What's an action step everyone's going to take this week?
For me, it is doing the heavy lifting with the CPA. Like yesterday, I spent
We were
9.
talking about that like a month ago.
Oh my God. Onboarding is just like such a beatdown. And I did 90 minutes yesterday of line item. What's this? And I'm like, Jesus, I don't know. So I have this homework assignment from hell that is like all of these spreadsheets and all of these things. It's
So
like,
we're going to text you every single day.
yeah, you're gonna be like, at least 5 line items today.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, that Best Buy is that's our drone account. So like when we crash a drone out on a
Yeah.
job, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I'll go get one on the way home.
Sure.
And so we just hand out drone like Pez around
Yeah.
here.
Who crashes the most? They're laughing.
Yeah, there's laughter over there,
Who's doing the crashing?
But the thing is,
Cruz. Yes.
yes,
Shout out Cruz.
Yeah, shout out to Cruz. And now I do have him as a witness, and he can give testimony that I know. I don't think I ever got like hyper pissed or got like really mad or whatever. Partly because I've already done it myself.
Right.
Yeah.
And every time I did it, it was like some dumbass thing where I'm trying to be clever. And I'm like, ooh, this
Always.
will be a cool shot. Well,
Famous
it would have
last
been.
word.
Yeah, would have been. Yeah, like it might as well have been like hold my beer.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
hold my beer while I fly this drone.
Yeah.
And then it's into the neighbor's house. No, I haven't actually hit the neighbor's. I've never done that. But I may have hit the seller's house.
Oh, don't do that.
It was-
Hire
it was-
Studio USA for
it
all
was-
of your filming.
Yeah.
It was brick.
Okay, good.
Good.
All right, you're good.
Yeah.
Good.
But the drone lost big time.
For sure.
Okay.
Yes.
So my action, which, because I've already talked about it a couple of times, I am going to continue to take positive steps and making myself feel better, because if I can physically feel better, then that's going to help fuel the other. And I can be at the optimum mentally and not think about how I'd maybe like my butt to be a little bit smaller or anything
I
else
feel
like
like that is a really roundabout, poor way of holding yourself accountable for a workout plan.
Ouch.
Okay, so here's me. I work out. I love.
called her
I
out.
did. I love to work out, so I'm using the Better Me app, which has different types of workout programs on
Love
there.
it.
But right now, it's a 28-day challenge, so I am doing something that has accountability to it.
Okay, good.
So I didn't do it this morning because I was running over here, so I need to
Right.
finish that today. I'm in
Right.
day like 5, but it's consistently
hair
for.
looks so good,
Oh,
so.
thank you so much. For 28 days, I'm doing that because part of that too is mobility and stretching and all of those things. And I haven't had a drink, and it's only been like 3 days, and it's not. It's not about I have an unhealthiness with it. I bloat like a beluga whale when I drink, and
get it.
so that's for me.
I break out in handcuffs.
So there's that. But for me, it's a correlation. It's not necessarily throwing me off my mental game. It's throwing my body off because I bloat so badly.
Yeah.
I only drink vodka and Perrier, so it's not like I'm drinking all the other stuff. But for
not
me,
even the good stuff. Yeah, the good sugary-
No,
yeah.
so it's just making sure that I stay on that. And yeah, 3 days. Way to go. How many years has it been?
19 and a half years, but hey, you know.
Who's counting?
Yeah.
But baby steps.
We all
Action.
have yeah.
You're taking
We're
action.
taking action so that my 28-day plan, I'm not saying I'm not having a drink for 28 days. We're in real estate, man, okay? But for me, it's doing the 28 days, making sure I'm doing some sort of physical activity outside of just my normal, I'm acting like a crazy person running around, and just being consistent that, hey, you know what? You don't have to have a drink just to have a drink. And if you want to go and celebrate, that's great, and do something like that. But for me, I
That
just
thought
need
never
days.
occurred to me. You don't have to have a drink to have a drink.
I know. I'm trying. Paradigm shift.
Look at you.
Yes.
So proud of you.
Thank you. You have probably a profound one.
No, it's really not profound. I have been, so as part of my coaching, I love to write, and I have been avoiding putting any of my pieces on, there's an app called, I think it's Thumbstack, Shortstack, some sort of stack.
Substack?
Substack.
Short stack. I'm like, Thumbtack is an app where you can find tradespeople.
Yes.
Okay, short stack is
pancakes.
what we call.
Pancakes.
Yes, yeah, it's Substack. Good
So I
job.
read it all the time.
Yeah.
But I need to actually post something
Subcakes?
on it. So that's my first thing that has to get done next week.
Okay.
And then my second thing is I have been remiss with my database.
Okay.
And so I've got to get back. I've got to hit my people up.
None
So-
of us are perfect, guys.
No.
Yeah.
But recognizing that I've missed it.
Yeah.
And like it's time. I got to reach back out. It's summer. I want to
Let's
know
do
what
it.
everybody's doing.
Yeah,
Right
checking out on
on.
their summer bods.
Checking on their summer bods. And really, I need some vacation ideas. I want to know where they're going.
Perfect.
So there you go.
love it.
There you go. Everybody take action on those items.
Let's
Take
take
action.
action.
We'll
and
report
let's,
back.
Well, we may or we may not because where's Wayne?
Where's Wayne?
Wayne will return.
He'll
Okay.
return. Awesome. We miss you, Wayne.
Till next time, Wayne.
Peace out, Wayne.